these guys proud Americans, or did they say
this is the epitome of what we were just talking about. These were individual guys. Half of these guys taught themselves to read. Half of these guys were slaves, and 5 years later they're sitting in Congress. And as slaves, it was a capital offense to learn to read. So these guys in 5 years, and I'll guarantee you read their speeches and records of Congress, you better have a dictionary and a thesaurus in both hands, because you won't understand the language they use. It is so brilliant what these guys did.
But were they there to say the white man is bad and the America is bad?
No.
And
these guys were Richard Allen. Let me go back here. Richard Allen had been in slavery. Richard Allen was in slavery, and he held no bitterness at all. He says God would not allow bitterness even in Joseph when he was in prison. Do you think God will allow it in us? He said, we can't have bitterness. He said, by the way, there were some whites who held us in slavery, but it's whites who are working for our freedom. I mean, these guys had no bitterness. They wouldn't allow it.
And I want to show, now these are from old newspapers. This one is Caesar Glover, a colored man supposed to be about 80 years of age. This is a obituary. He was brought from Africa as a slave when a child. He served in the Revolutionary War and is one of the pensioners of the United States. What does this tell you?
Several things. That is a list of obituaries. It's not broken out black and white. He's right in with he's just a citizen. They're just telling you who's died. Didn't matter whether you were black or white or anything else. You're a citizen. But significantly there is the word pensioner. He's a pensioner of the United States.
A colored man named Henry Hill died at Chillicothe not long since the age of 80 years. He served faithfully in the Revolutionary War and was a participant in the battles of Lexington, Brandywine, Monmouth, and Princeton and Yorktown. He was interred with honors of the war. What does that mean?
Not only a pension, but he got a full military funeral as any veteran would get. So that's a military funeral with all the honors that go with being a veteran.
A free Negro man in the name of Thomas Hercules was on the 6th day of July chosen town clerk of that bureau by a decided majority of votes. This, we mention, is proof of the growing liberality of the present age, when virtue and worth alone, and not mere color or tippery of rank and splendor, begin to recommend a man
places of trust and confidence. He got elected because of his worth and abilities. It wasn't because of what color he was or wasn't. It wasn't because of him scheming for office.
Does this not sound like Martin Luther King? This sounds like Martin Luther King.
That's a 1792 newspaper.
1792.
Alveda, did you know about the role that African Americans played in the founding of this nation?
There's a wonderful group of African-American conservatives who are history buffs. And so when I have all of these conversations with them and I look back into my history books, I'm looking for this information. And so because of the wealth of information that now Glenn is sharing with the world, I think that people are astounded to even find out that there were African-American founding fathers. And so I knew it, but I don't think enough people know it.
Wonder why we never learned about that in the public schools.
Yeah.
Up next, the parallels between the 1960s and now. And Dr. King reads aloud the nonviolence pledge that her uncle wrote up for civil rights marchers of the last century, a pledge that many of us should be taking today. Martin Luther King's 10-point nonviolence pledge in a moment. But first, let's watch a short clip of Dr. Alveda King's answer to a question Glenn asked her a few months back, if she sees any parallels between the 1960s and today.
There are parallels between the 60s, Glenn, and now, because during the 1960s, people were being slaughtered, their lives were being taken, there was violence, greed, drugs were rising, just all of this. And my uncle was saying, you've got to come back to faith, hope, and love. Now, you get the Bible translation say faith, hope, and charity, faith, hope, and love. And he got that from his father, Daddy King. And he got that from his ancestors, And so coming forth, you've got to love each other. You have to have faith. And you never lose hope, even when things are really, really, really bad. there's always hope. So today, we have the same conditions. People are being slaughtered, war and rumors of war, abortion, drugs, sicknesses, disease, all of this is going on. Greed. America is just going crazy with greed. I really have to say that. And so in the midst of all of this, people caring more about themselves than the least of these, than others. And so the answer is going to always be the same. You've got to have faith. You've got to begin to continue to hope and not give up on others. And then the other thing, you hate evil, but you don't hate the people that do evil. So hate has to go out the window.
Hate does have to go out the window, and so does violence. So I want to ask you, Dr. King, if you would read a pledge for us again that you once read on the program, that you actually took and signed once, that was written by your uncle for all of his marchers.
During the days of the Civil Rights Movement, Judge, this pledge that we had to sign when we engaged in the civil rights battles of the 50s and 60s. And my father, Reverend A.D. King, was a part of that group, Dr. Fred Shuttlesworth in Birmingham, and certainly the leader, my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And so this is a code or a set of 10 commandments that we marched by.
Let's hear them.
Meditate daily on the teachings and life of Jesus. 2, remember always that the nonviolent movement in Birmingham seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory. 3, walk and talk in the manner of love, for God is love. 4, pray daily to be used by God in order that all men might be free. 5, sacrifice personal wishes in order that all people might be free. 6, observe with both friend and foe the ordinary rules of courtesy. 7, seek to perform regular service for others and the world. 8, refrain from the violence of fist, tongue, or heart. 9, strive to be in good spiritual and bodily health. And 10, follow the directions of the movement and of the captain of a demonstration. I sign this pledge having seriously considered what I do, and with the determination and will to persevere.
How profound. Thank you, Alveda. Still to come, Dr. King's special appearance at 8:28. Back in a moment. So what are some of the lessons we're taking home from tonight? You can see them here on the board. You have the right to be free. You have a right to live your life as you want. You have a right to pursue happiness as you perceive it. Progressives, including the president, believe it's the government's role to press Americans to make each other happy.
Because our individual salvation depends on collective salvation. Because thinking only about yourself, fulfilling your immediate wants and needs, betrays a poverty of ambition.
Oh, we've learned that the civil rights movement of the 60s has been perverted and distorted.
The dream was not to put one black family in the White House. The dream was to make everything equal in everybody's house.
We've learned that there's a huge difference between the rights of the individual and collective rights.
There's no such thing as collective rights. You have rights as a human. You have rights as an individual.
With individual rights, we can be free. But in a society where we are required to live collectively, we cannot be free. We've learned the progressives have been making a mockery of the civil rights movement.
Totally different. This woman is mocking. They're laughing it up. Look at this man. Look at this man. Look at this man. Look at this man. This one. This one. They're frightened. Look at his face. You don't think he knew he was going to die? You don't think he knew what was at stake? These people had courage. This is a civil rights mockery.
We've learned that there are parallels between the fight for civil rights in the 1960s and the fight for freedom from government oppression today. And we've learned that goals should always be sought after with nonviolence and love for one another.
Remember always that the nonviolent movement in Birmingham seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory. 3, walk and talk in the manner of love, for God is love.
Dr. King's special appearance at the 828 Restoring Honor Rally in Washington, next. That's it for our crash course. We hope you're all caught up for when Glenn returns on Monday. I've had so much fun doing this week. Glenn is back on Monday. Now, if you want to catch more of my show, Freedom Watch, it's at 10 a.m. on Saturdays on the Fox Business Network. My humblest thanks to our special guest today, Dr. Alveda King, for joining us.
It's been great, Judge. Let freedom ring.
As we leave you tonight, let's take another look back at some of the inspirational moments of 8/28. From New York, defending freedom. Good night, America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Alveda King.
47 years ago, my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., stood here and proclaimed, "I have a dream." I was at home with the younger children, with Daddy King Sr. and Mama King. We all knew that August 28th would be a very special day. If Uncle Martin could be here today, he would surely commend us for giving honor where honor is due. He would surely remind us that as brothers and sisters, united by one blood in one single race, the human race, we are called to honor God and to love each other. I, too, have a dream. It is in my genes. I have a dream that one day soon, God's agape love will transcend skin color and economic status and cause us to turn from moral turpitude. I have a dream that America will repent of the sin of racism and return to honor. God bless America, and let us march on together until victory is won.